Enthusiast or buyer, cars or bikes, whatever you want in the auto world, it's right here on this channel. Subscribe now. BMW's new X3 is finally here. We saw it at the Expo, we drove it soon after that, but now priced at 57 lakhs, it's here to take on the competition. To do that, we've got the whole set together. The two Germans, the Audi Q5 and the Merc GLC, Land Rover's Discovery Sport, and of course Volvo's new XC60. Is this the best SUV of the lot? Let's see. On the styling front, each of these SUVs showcases its maker's latest family look. The BMW X3 looks distinctly larger than the one it replaces. It's also the largest car in this test, and that's in almost every dimension. The Q5 looks perhaps a bit too similar to the Q7 at first glance, but look closer and you will notice new sharp creases and details. The GLC's proportions are the least SUV-like, and it looks almost like an estate car thanks to the low roof, but it does look good from the rear. Truth be told, the XC60 is also a bit too Volvo, but the chrome-rich inscription trim and the distinctive Thor's hammer headlamps help it stand out. The Discovery Sport is the most rugged looking of the lot and the most solidly built. There's no chrome here and not much bling either, but the black trim and some classy proportions do help it stand shoulder to shoulder with the pack. But which of these luxury SUVs are actually the most pleasing, relaxing and fun to drive? First up, the new BMW X3. As always with BMW, the diesel engine is happy to spin at high speed. But this one is a bit noisy as well. And initial power delivery is also a bit relaxed. Now, BMW's diesel has the requisite power, but it is a bit lazy in its power delivery. However, if you want to feel the power, shift to S, put your foot down, and it's much stronger. BMW has also improved the 8-speed automatic, and as a result it feels a lot smoother than in some of the older models. The X3 also feels the most agile of the lot, no surprise. BMW has nailed the driving experience with the X3. The steering is light, accurate and absolutely precise. Body control is good, and turn into a corner and, well, apart from a bit of roll, it could be as much fun as a sedan. Audi's Q5 is also surprisingly agreeable and effortless to drive. The 190 horsepower engine in the Audi Q5 isn't the most powerful, but what it has is really strong acceleration. It's probably the quickest car of the bunch here. It's even nicer to drive around corners than any recent Audi. The Audi Q5 doesn't get air suspension, but what it gets is adaptive dampers, and when you put it in dynamic, it stiffens the car up pretty nicely. Agility is, well, frankly, tremendous, and you can really enjoy throwing this car around like it's half its weight. Steering, however, is a bit too light and disconnected, like most Audis. But it's the Volvo that has the most power here. But surprisingly, it doesn't translate into the strongest performance. Now, Volvo's D5 is the most powerful engine here, and what it also has is a shot of extra boost to take care of that turbo lag called Power Pulse. It comes in as soon as you put your foot down. Yes, the power is there and you feel the extra boost from the Power Pulse system. But when driven flat out, there clearly is no sense of urgency here. It's best to enjoy the smooth engine at a leisurely pace. And this is true of how it drives and steers too. The Volvo is also best driven in a relaxed manner. It comes with air suspension as standard, and you put it in comfort, the softest setting possible, and enjoy the fluid, light and easy steering. Merc's GLC carries on using the 2.1 litre diesel, now replaced by the newer 2-litre diesel in cars like the E-Class.
Now Merc's GLC doesn't have the most powerful engine at 170 horsepower, but this 9-speed gearbox is quick, on the ball and just brilliant. So performance is pretty strong.
The Mercedes isn't quite the best car to drive here, but like the BMW, it has a distinctive rear-wheel drive feel to it.
It is sure-footed and it's pretty confidence-inspiring from behind the wheel. And that's exactly what you want.
Land Rover's new, more powerful engine has a strong mid-range.
Now the Discovery's engine isn't really as responsive as that of the Audi, and the gearbox isn't as quick as the Merc either, but it has a nice strong mid-range and the pull is lusty.
Best equipped to be driven off-road, the Discovery Sport isn't at home on a winding road.
The Discovery is clearly a bit more ponderous and a bit more heavy-footed than its competition. And what makes it worse is that the steering is heavier too. However, get over that, and handling is pretty sure-footed.
But which of these SUVs is best to be driven around in? The X3 marks a huge step up from its predecessor, both in terms of design and quality, and it certainly feels worthy of its price. There's plenty of high-quality switchgear, quality levels on the rest of the dash are right up there with the best, and you even get leather on the dashboard. Like many BMWs, you also get a slick digital instrument cluster, and of course BMW's best-in-class iDrive. What's unusual though is that the front seats, though comfy enough, offer limited adjustment. You can, however, recline the rear seats.
So in the back of the BMW X3, and although space per se hasn't increased, they've used it more efficiently. So you have a lot more leg room. The seat is pretty nice and supportive. The backrest, however, is a bit flat, and because the cabin is a bit dark, it doesn't feel as spacious as some of its rivals.
Ride quality, however, can be a bit lumpy at times.
You do feel a few pitter-patters, you do feel the car rocking slightly.
Audi's Q5 has everything it needs, but somehow it sort of misses hitting the spot. You can't really fault it for its functionality, ergonomics, and especially the micrometer perfect build. It's just that it doesn't look or feel special enough, and that's probably down to the design, which is a bit too similar to other Audis. Also, some touch points feel a bit plasticky, and overall, it just doesn't seem to have the wow factor of its rivals. The Q5, however, has a really nice back seat and the most comfortable ride, so it's the best car to be driven around in.
The Audi does a good job if you're being chauffeur driven. There's a lot of leg room. This seat has a good amount of support for your thighs. The backrest is nicely contoured, so it holds you in place. There's a good amount of airflow from here, and space in general is pretty decent. It even rides well, so put it all together and you have a car you can be comfortable in over a long period of time. The only fly in the ointment, however, could be if you are tall, headroom isn't too good.
The Volvo has its own unique take on luxury. It's minimalist but not drab, and it has bling in the right places. Quality is right up there with the X3, and save for a few lesser bits, it is class leading. Functionality wise, however, we do wish there were a few more physical buttons. Using the touchscreen to find essential menu functions while on the move can be quite a pain. And some of you will find the seat cushioning a bit too hard. Still, the front seats are very supportive, they're heated, ventilated, and you even get a massage function. Wow!
The Volvo isn't specifically the best in any area, but it does a decent job overall. There's a lot of space here. You get the two sets of vents, the one in the center and the ones on the B pillar, so airflow is pretty good. And the seat height is decent, and there's a decent amount of thigh support.
Wish the ride quality were better though, because despite this SUV having air suspension, it feels a bit too fidgety at low speeds, and unless you have it set to dynamic, it floats a bit too when you go faster. The dashboard in the GLC is almost identical to that of the C-Class, and that means a classic luxury feel with big swathes of polished wood trim and nicely brushed metal surfaces. The design and driving position, however, feel more sedan-like, and you don't get that same sense of solidity from the trim and switchgear as you do on other cars in this class. Seat cushioning though is nice and supple.
Sit in the back of the Merc and the first thing you notice is how soft and supple these seats are. They're really comfortable and there's a lot of legroom here. Unfortunately, you are sat quite low with your knees up, and that means seat comfort isn't as good as it could have been. This holds true for the ride as well, which, if you come up on a bump like this, tosses you around and can be quite stiff.
The cabin also feels distinctly narrower than the rest. If you want solid, the Land Rover is the SUV for you. It's the closest you'll get to a tank in this test. The doors feel heavy, the trim feels thick and rugged, and even the dashboard design is more functional than flashy. Trouble is, some might find it a bit too plain, and that's especially true at this price point. The Discovery, however, is the only one that gives you that towering SUV driving position, and the Land Rover is also pretty spacious in the back.
The Discovery Sport has loads of legroom in the back, especially if you push this adjustable seat all the way to the rear. There's a good amount of thigh support, the backrest can be inclined so that you're comfortable, and the ride is nice and muscular.
This is especially true once the car is up to speed, and what gives this SUV an advantage is that it's the only one here with a 6th and 7th seat. Fold away the third row and the Land Rover also has the largest boot. The three Germans all have identically sized 550-litre boots. The Audi feels the most usable with a spare tucked underneath the floor. The BMW has a nice enclosure built for its spare tire. The Merc's spare, however, sits on the floor of the boot, and that means when you put in luggage, it has to go on top of that. Not nice. The Volvo on paper has the smallest boot, but it's wide and that means it's the most usable here. What's worth noting, however, is that all these SUVs get only space savers and not full-size spare tires. Not nice if you're stuck on a trail somewhere far away. As far as equipment goes, the Volvo is easily the best equipped car here. It starts with the adaptive air suspension and goes on to various driver aids, including active and passive safety features. It even has level 2 autonomous driving and that phenomenal sounding Bowers & Wilkins audio system. The Merc, on the other hand, feels the most sparsely equipped, missing on things like front seat memory, separate climate control for the rear, and the GLC's command system also feels a bit too antiquated. The Merc and the Land Rover also don't get Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. The BMW X3, however, gets something unique: Apple CarPlay that's wireless. The Audi and the BMW also get wireless charging docks. So to sum up, let's start with the previous class best. The best price SUV here, the Merc GLC. With its older engine, poor equipment levels and low rear seat, the GLC now feels a bit too long in the tooth. And what also goes against it is the fact that its stance is the least SUV-like here. What definitely feels like an SUV is the Discovery Sport, and with the new more powerful engine, it has an appeal of its own. It also helps that it's the most spacious, the most practical, and also, of course, the most capable off-road. But the Land Rover doesn't feel luxury car enough to begin with, and then there's the fact that it's amongst the most expensive here. The Q5 is just a superb all-rounder. It surprised us by being the quickest, it's the most refined, and it's an SUV that overall does an extremely competent job. It's just that it feels a bit characterless and bland. And then there's the fact that it is the most expensive of the class here. The new X3 from BMW has what it takes to be the best SUV in its class. For those who enjoy driving, this is the SUV to buy. Still, it comes with some key shortcomings. The engine should have been a bit more responsive, the ride could have been a bit more comfortable, and to win, it would have needed to have a better back seat. So the Volvo XC60 wins, and that's because it scores well in almost every area. To begin with, it's equipped like an SUV from a segment above. No exaggeration. It's pleasant to drive, the rear seat is comfortable, it isn't too expensive, and it even comes with loads and loads of safety kit. Volvo's even improving its service network, and spare parts today are easier to get. Sure, the XC60 has its shortcomings, and in some areas its competitors still have an edge. But if you are looking for the best overall SUV in this segment, this currently is it.